Hi, everyone. This is Lisa Haven, and I've got a truly disturbing report to share with you today. And that is this. This past December 17th, a new resolution was introduced in the House, House Resolution 569. Now, it was introduced by a Democrat from Virginia's District 8. His name is Donald Byer, and him and 70 other Democrats have signed on to this resolution, and it's very, very disturbing. What is this resolution, you ask? Well, they have just moved to make it or to condemn, thus far it's condemn, speaking against Muslims. In fact, the report states itself, any violence, bigotry, or hateful rhetoric towards Muslims should be condemned. Now, I'm going to title this report that government makes a move to make it a crime to speak against Muslims. Why am I going to do that? Well, because it starts with condoning something and looking down on something. You wouldn't pass a legislation in the House and try to pass a bill, and I'm going to show you the bill in a moment, so you don't have to take my word for it, but we're going to go there. But if you're going to start with something like this is a step, and it's going to continue to make that step. What happens if it's looked or frowned upon or condemned if you speak against a Muslims? Well, eventually people are going to start making it into a criminal crime. And we can talk about fights and race riots. I think this could start a whole lot of things. But here's the thing to think about as well. There is nothing that says, oh, you can't talk against Christians. Oh, you can't talk against Catholics. Oh, you can't say anything against Buddhists. Why is it only against the Muslims that we're not allowed to speak against? Why even make a resolution that goes against our First Amendment right, which our First Amendment right states Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech, which they're doing, right? This goes against our freedom of speech or press. Both of those have been violated, and so on and so forth. Let's get into that House resolution because you guys really need to see this. All right, so here we are on congress.gov. I'll show you the link here, and I'm going to leave a link below definitely for you guys to check out here. Here is House Resolution 569, and what is the title? Condemning violence, bigotry, and hateful rhetoric towards Muslims in the good old-fashioned United States of America. As you can see, introduced on the 114th Congress, 2015-2016. Sponsors, well, that's Republican Byer Donald S. Jr. of Virginia District 8. This is the guy here who has introduced the bill. He needs to be removed from office. So if you live in Virginia, that would be an act I would do, along with all 70 people whose names fall on this document. And the reason that I'm saying this is, look, like I said, why are they going to make it or attempt to make it? This has not passed. Let me be clear. Shows you here, it has just been introduced. And then it goes through a whole step of actions and so on and so forth. This is just step one. It hasn't gone through, and I'm hoping it won't go through. But the fact that they introduced it should open up a whole heck of a can of worms for everybody out there. Why don't they move again, to make it against the law to speak against Christianity, because we have a freedom of speech. That's why. Now, here's the resolution condemning violence, bigotry, and hateful rhetoric towards Muslims. Here's all 70 Democrats who have signed on to this thing December 17th, 2015. All of them need to be removed from office. Well, let's read through this resolution before I give my little dialogue. It says, whereas the victims of anti-Muslim hate crimes and rhetoric have faced physical, verbal, and emotional abuse because they were Muslims or believed to be Muslim, whereas the constitutional right to freedom of religious practice is cherished. Oh, so they cherish freedom of religion part, and violence or hate speech towards any community based on faith is contravention of the nation's founding principles. That's interesting because they're willing to give up part of our First Amendment right which is the freedom of speech. But they're doing it under the name of freedom of religion. Moving on. Where there are millions of Muslims in the United States, a community made up of many diverse beliefs, cultures, immigrants, and native-born citizens, Muslim community is recognized as having made many contributions to cultural and economic fabric, whereas hateful and intolerant acts against them are basically unacceptable, whereas the acts not only the individual victim, but also it messes with their families, their beliefs, yada, yada. Whereas women who wear their headscarves or other religious clothing have been disappropriately targeted because of their religious articles that they wear. Wow, same thing happens with Christianity, who when we wear a cross, we're ultimately targeted. But hey, I don't suggest anyone make a law against Christianity. Don't go and say it's against the law to speak against Christians. I don't want that. I don't want that law in place. Why? Because people have a freedom of religion. Don't go and do it about Muslim. Don't go and do it about Catholicism. Don't go and do it for Jewish. No religion gets a precedence over the other, and this is what they're doing. Whereas the rise of hateful and anti-Muslim speech, violence, and cultural ignorance plays into the false narrative spread by terrorist groups of Western hatred of Islam and can encourage individuals to react in extreme ways. So here is the House of Representatives. Expresses its condolence for the victims of anti-Muslim hate crimes, confirms its dedication to the right and dignity of citizens of all. Well, then why don't you just put all faiths, right? But that's not the case. Why? Because many in the upper ranks of the government are Muslim links. Number 3, denounces in the strongest terms of increased hate speech, intimidation, violence, vandalism, arson, and other hate crimes towards mosques, Muslims, or those even believed to be Muslims. The U.S. Muslim community has made positive contributions. Number 5, declares that the civil rights and civil liberties of U.S. citizens, including Muslims, should be protected and preserved, should be for everybody. Urges local and federal law authorities to work to prevent these crimes, and obviously reaffirms the inalienable rights of every citizen to live without fear and intimidation and to practice their freedom of faith. There is that House resolution. All right, let me be clear here about something. I don't believe Muslims should have any violent acts done against them. I'm not a violent person. I don't condone violent acts. However, what I disapprove of is the fact that they're going to go against our First Amendment right and make it condemnable or almost criminal. It's going to turn into criminal. If this thing goes through, eventually it will become a criminal act to say anything against a Muslim. They're already doing it on media. They won't say Islamic terrorism. They won't say jihadic terrorist. They do terrorism. Let's just call it terrorism to be politically correct. Okay, what I don't agree with is the fact that they're doing this and no other religion has that made for them. Heck, when the Holocaust happened, you didn't see them, trying to pass laws and saying, oh, it's bad to speak against the Jewish religion. Don't say anything bad. Or when we went through, all the stuff with the Japanese internment camps during that time, did they make it a law to say anything against their religion? No. Why? Because it goes against our First Amendment right. Don't put one religion over another, and that's exactly what they're doing. That I don't agree with. That I don't appreciate. And I wouldn't want our government either to create a law saying, don't speak against Christianity. People have a right. If they don't agree with Christianity, by all means, speak against it. If they don't like it, if they have a certain religion, I'm not going to say, hey, you're not allowed to say anything against what I believe. That's stupid. That's ludicrous. And that's insanity. But that's what our government's doing or attempting to do. These 70 Democrats are attempting to push this through the House of Representatives. So I say it again, they are moving to make it criminal. While this House resolution does not make it a criminal crime to speak against them, it does condone it. And there's a very thin line that can be drawn between just condemning it, not condone it, but condemning it. Because why even make a resolution in the first place saying, let's condemn it? Why? Well, because it's going to get worse in the media. If you say anything bad about it, if you say anything bad about immigration, for example, when these Syrian refugees start coming in and start pouring in and our crimes go up, people are not going to be too happy. That's just the truth. If this resolution passed, well, now you can't not be unhappy about this. You can't express your feelings. And yes, because all of those, for the most part, coming in, they're Muslims. Few, if any, are Christians that are coming in. And Christians are getting highly persecuted in that country. If we're going to be fair, bring them in. But we don't see them bringing a load of them in either. They're bringing in ISIS, they're bringing in terrorists, and a bunch of them are young men. And we know what's happening in Germany already and in Sweden as they are allowing the mass influx of immigrants in. Well, if this thing gets passed, you can betcha mainstream lying media is going to keep their mouth shut due to political correctness. If crimes happen, well, it was done by a man of Arabic origin, or they'll just paint his skin color white like they did with the reporter guy, the guy that shot the reporter. Let's paint him white, CNN did that. Hopefully you followed that story. I don't want to get too much into that. But these are the kinds of things that media pull, mainstream media. And they're going to attempt to start shutting up everyday media like myself, like other channels who are really speaking truth. And here's just one step in that direction. Eventually, we already know that Mark Zuckerberg on Facebook had a meeting with Angela Merkel on a live mic, and he stated that he would start making it censored if anyone spoke against immigration. Well, that would include Muslims. Some of the posts that get the most censored on my Facebook are those that speak about Muslims, those that speak about the truth of what's really going on, those that speak about immigration. And so all I see is that ladder going heavier in one direction. Well, hopefully this thing doesn't get passed. But I wanted to bring you guys all the latest on that and allow you to decide. And hopefully you guys understand where I'm coming from. I think, no religion should be pushed above the other, especially as a country doing that. Anyhow, wanted to bring you the latest. This is Lisa Haven signing off.